Okay, today I am going to be talking about putting beads or buttons on top of certain quilts. And I've got one all ready to go, so I thought I would show a flower hug first, because the way I do buttons on a flower hug is very similar to the way I do buttons and beads on some other quilts. Before I start, I wanted to show you what I found was a little bit of a disappointment. When I'm deciding what beads and buttons I want to put on, I often will go to the button store and look for something new and different. I wanted a color that would go with this flower, and I found some very nice buttons that, well, I found 3 different varieties, but here's one variety that I'll show you. It's got a little bit of a peachy pink color flower on top. I thought, oh, that'd be perfect. When it was laying on the button thing, it worked great. I bring it home and I take it off of the paper and I lay it down. I don't know if you can see this very well, but it just totally doesn't look very good on this black center hexagon. So had to put that in my jar for future use on a light background. But here's the button I'm going to use. I'm going to use this button, and I'm going to put a little button on top. I'm also going to put some beads around the edge, and I'm going to put some beads right here. And I always put a little ladybug somewhere on the leaves. So putting the button on is usually what I do first. You don't have to, but I like to do them in that order. And when I'm putting a button on, I use a heavier thread, like a hand quilting thread or just a little stiffer thread, and I often will double the thread. So I have my needle threaded, and I'm going to put the button, I just eyeball the middle, and then I take and put a pin on one side and a pin in the other hole. And if I can lift this up, I will pull those pins through to the back, and this will show me where the button that looks like it's in the middle. We hope it's in the middle. Maybe it's close. Okay, well, it's not as close as I want it, so I'm going to scoot him over a little bit. I'm going to move this one. That looks better. So now I'm going to flip this to the back. This is where my button holes are. And when you're applying buttons or beads to the back of a quilt, you just don't want to dig right in there and stick your needle through and have that awful knot showing. Because sometime when you're somewhere, maybe you might want to enter this in a show, and it's unsightly to have a knot. So I start somewhere off to the side, and I just pull that knot underneath, sort of like if you were hand quilting, only this time we're on the back of the quilt. And it usually just pops right through. There we go. Now then, I'm going to stick this through where one of those holes on the button was. And I'm going to take this one thread out. Now I've got a place where I think I'm going to be. So I'm going to take the other pin out, and I'm going to aim for the center and sew this button down. Now when I have him nicely centered there, I might take another poke through the button so that I have him good and stable on this side. Now then, before I do too much, I'm going to take the little button, I'm going to come through the hole, And I am going to now go through the smaller button that's on top and through that other side and through the other side so that he sits right up on top. Oftentimes you can still do 3 or 4 stitches to capture both buttons, and I usually do want to get them. You have to hold your needle just right. You gotta sort of hold your tongue in a certain way. There we go. And now let's do the other side. This will probably be enough to hold that on well. So now I'm on the back again. I am going to knot it on the back. And then I am going to bury those threads, just like you would do if you were hand quilting something. So that part is finished. And now it's on to doing some beading. Next up in part 2, I'll show you how to add some beads to the flower hugs.